Hip-hop for Flint is not just for Flint, Michigan. It's come right here to Newark, New Jersey to raise money for the schools and the community that have been affected by high levels of lead.
Right. Newark and all of these cities that are having a lot of trouble with lead contamination in the pipes of the buildings are older cities. They are very old. The infrastructure is old. What happens is that, in contrast, a lot of suburban communities are newer. A lot of cities surrounding Newark, like Livingston, were created, really developed in like the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. They're newer cities. So therefore, their schools are newer. Everything in them is newer. So a lot of the problems that we deal with are problems that go back decades that a lot of newer cities don't have to deal with because the infrastructure itself is not hundreds of years old.
Enough money was raised today to pay for over 50 water filtration systems for schools throughout the city of Newark.
Water is life. You know, I think the thing in Flint, Michigan is just pull the cover off of a problem that has been a Band-Aid over for years, and Newark has that same problem. Newark, New Jersey, we just realized that we have the same lead problems in 30 schools, and they're talking about closing. Before they do that, we were able to bring in a company who's donated 200 water filters, and then those have been matched now by another company. So that's over 400 water filters that's going into the school system.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the lead that's found in the water in Newark because it leads to learning disabilities, and I'm not surprised that it's throughout Newark at all because a lot of people have complained about stomach aches and, you know, stomach viruses. I know people that, you know, my nieces and nephews, they go to school in Newark, and they always come home sick all the time. So I'm very concerned about that, and I know that it's a lot of parents out there that are concerned as well.
But what we encourage is, because that water is laying stagnant in the pipe, just to do a 30-second flush of your system. So you're getting out all the stagnant water in your system so that there's no potential for that lead to be in your drinking water.
I'm here in front of John F. Kennedy Elementary School in Newark, New Jersey, where many of the parents and students are in somewhat of a panic over the high lead levels. Not only high, but 37 times higher than the state of New Jersey deems to be safe.
So this school had 1 point in the building that, out of the 10 points that were tested, that had an elevated level.
There was 30+ schools initially found to have high levels of lead contamination. Just as of yesterday, they found 8 additional schools that had levels of water that were deemed unsafe for our students. We all come together today. Hip-hop for Newark. This is one event that we all come together in unison and show love to the city of Newark and the city of Flint. And we want to be proactive instead of reactive, because we can't have our youth drinking water that's unsafe. Because we know that from studies have shown that when you have lead in your system, the damages are irreversible. So we want to make sure that we do all that we can to save our children out here.
Such an important issue, and compared to normal, where it would just be a musical performance. And did you speak with that amongst the other musicians and guys that you work with?
Yes, it is honorable to be a part of something like this, because as far as with the humanitarian crisis, because this is not a water crisis, contrary to popular belief, this is a humanitarian crisis, because access to water drinkable water is a human right. So I felt that with amalgamating a popular multi-billion-dollar industry, or should I say a subculture which manifested a multi-billion-dollar industry, was a humanitarian crisis, or alleviating a humanitarian crisis, this was a necessity. So I feel pretty good about being a part of it.
Outside the Early Childhood School West, Old Speedway, here in Newark, there are about 131 children in the school. So far, 32 families have come in to register their children and 31 have been screened. The screening has stopped right now. We expect more parents to come in this afternoon, where we'll see more of a rush coming in. About 25 children for one phlebotomist in a 6-hour period. So they can do it. They've been doing it quite smoothly this morning. Yesterday it was pretty smooth as well. Once they got moving, they were moving quite fast. Obviously the 3- and 4-year-olds are more difficult because they cry a lot, and so they were giving them some lollipops to take home for the weekend. Okay.
Did every student choose or a parent choose to get screened?
Yes, so we're giving information to families that we're doing this here in their school today should they wish to participate. This school has a Head Start program, so actually most of the children coming into this program did get Let's Screen based on the federal Head Start guidelines. So most of our families have gone through this process before and have a baseline, and 32 of them opted in this morning. At least 31 of them got their children screened.
And have the results been released yet? Or?
So yesterday we thought the results, in the beginning of the day yesterday, we thought the results, which usually come out in 3 to 4 days. Based on the numbers that we're seeing from yesterday and a little bit today, the city does feel it may take a little longer, maybe more like 7 to 8 days to come out. So,
is it good news? Can any be released publicly?
So we don't have that information, and the city will have to make that decision. I think right now what's happening is when families come in, we're registering them in, giving them all the needed paperwork, and they're actually getting a chance to sit down with a health educator from the city, as well as our nurse staff. So families are actually getting one-on-one coaching and information today, which is really helpful.
Us how we can make sure that we stay informed of environmental injustices and other injustices, and how we can take action to protect human rights.
So a lot of it is demanding your right to knowledge and demanding transparency. I think that's the one thing that this issue in particular has shown that we need to continue to be working and striving for, both in the city and with the statewide. A lot of things happen.
Cities like Newark. Now, when you look at Flint, Michigan, like I said, General Motors was the backbone of Flint's economy. When General Motors was thriving, Flint was beautiful. Downtown was beautiful. Everything about Flint was beautiful when the infrastructure of the economy was intact. When the infrastructure fell apart, when the economy fell apart, when the backbone, when the pulse of what kept people paying mortgages stopped, the city's pipes fell apart.
And that's why one advantage that was brought out that Newark has, Prudential and other industries that are here and established. So as long as those industries and that money is being made by those industries, that'll help.
They'll never let it starve the way Flint did, because Flint was a one-industry city. The only industry was the auto industry. Now, when you go to a lot of so-called underdeveloped parts of the world, they suffer from the same problem, which is that their whole economy revolves around 1 or 2 products that they deliver to the world. Right? So when those products get outcompeted by other regions, their economies fall, because all of a sudden that product that you got from there now has competition. That's the problem with a city like Flint. Its economy was not diverse. When you come to Newark, our economy is a little bit more diverse because we're on the water. So therefore we're by definition a port city. So because we're a port city, we have access to a lot more interests under the capitalist system than, Flint would. Really, Detroit was closer than Flint was to having the opportunity to have a more diverse economy, but Detroit, like Flint, was also an auto city. So once the auto industry collapsed and redirected, the economy of the city fell.
At the end and the beginning of the day, this is about our future. Let's get this federal funding, let's get this thing cleaned up, and let's get our kids in a safer, more environment so that they could live and that they could do things for their future.
Is there any type of nutritional or health advice that can help, maybe not correct the problem, but lessen it or help that person in any way?
Well, when it comes to asthma, You have to get kids out the hood. See, in Newark, if you took a lot of children to South Mountain Reservation more frequently, it would make a big difference, because South Mountain Reservation, which is right up the road 6-7 miles, or Eagle Rock Reservation, is surrounded by trees. So I'm sure, I don't know, the quality of air in South Mountain Reservation is better than the quality of air in Newark. There are small things you can do. If children from the city were carted up into the reservation once or twice a week for an hour to walk around in the woods and breathe in the air, it might do them a lot of good. If Newark didn't just own Pequannock, but actually took kids up there in the summer on an annual basis for a month to live, they'd get a month's worth of fresh air in their lungs. There are a bunch of basic things that we could be doing.
And it's been confirmed that there were officials high up in the school system that knew of the high lead levels, extremely high levels since 2004, and they just sat on their hands and they didn't address the problem.
That's disgusting to hear that, because it makes it seem as like our health is not important. It makes it seem like, you know, nobody cares, you know, and water is essential to your everyday need.
Tell us how we can make sure that we stay informed of environmental injustices and other injustices, and how we can take action to protect human rights.
So a lot of it is demanding your right to knowledge and demanding transparency. I think that's the one thing that this issue in particular has shown that we need to continue to be working and striving for, both in the city and with the statewide. A lot of things happen to Newark that Newark doesn't necessarily know, and that's intentional. It is intentional not to know. That you can't be mad and you can't react if you have no idea what those health impacts, what that truck is doing to your lungs. You just know that you're sick. And so that's one aspect. There are other ways to always get involved.
Newark Mayor Ras Baraka has set up over 23 screening centers here in Newark where parents can bring their kids for testing. Parents can go there free of charge to get their children tested for lead. To find those locations, go to our website, filesonenews.com, or go to cityofnewarknj.gov. Do you think the federal government should help with funding?
At this point, yes, because if it takes over 10 years before people in the community find out about it, yeah, the federal government should step in, because it's been covered up all this time, so it's necessary.
And you compare it to the situation in Flint, Michigan, and you hope maybe, like the press, there'll be more attention and that'll get the federal government involved?
Yes. Yes, and as a matter of fact, I have family in Michigan, and they're being affected by that situation out there. And now I have family here in Newark, and now to hear that this is going on is just, you know, a surprise to me. It's a big surprise.
You know, part of the problem with the nutrition is that we live in these cities where there are no real supermarkets close by, and the easiest way to go to the store is to go down the street to your local bodega and buy whatever that bodega has. The quality of the food in the bodegas of anything healthy, like the vegetables and the fruit, you know, is the worst quality out of all the fruits and vegetables coming into this country. So I think it's good that the city is starting to build more supermarkets like the one that they built downtown. The problem is that what's happening is that the areas where the good supermarkets are being developed, like the Whole Foods downtown and the ShopRite right there on the hill, is that those areas are also being gentrified. And a lot of the people who are going to be able to afford to live in those apartments right around where the supermarkets are not the people who are historically suffering from malnutrition. So many of us, for example, Teachers Village, right downtown, that huge complex they just built, most teachers can't afford to live there.
Right, unless they're the superintendent.
So you can't afford to live in Teachers Village if you're a teacher. What does that tell you about the future of housing construction in the city? It's pricing out a lot of poor working class people. So what we need is more food supermarkets that are in communities that are readily accessible to poor people, so that that becomes more of an option for them.
You know, and we're just saying that we're going to be heard when we help out people.
And how do you feel? You're being heard. The turnout today, how do you feel about the turnout so far?
I mean, so far the turnout is cool. It's good. Because if we can just get one person to make a difference, then that's a step in the right direction. You know, a lot of times you want the numbers to be big, and the more popular you are, they think the more successful you are. But look, we just got over 400 water filters for the school system. So if it was 4 people in here today, and we still got those 400 water filters and those 250 for Flint, which will be double, so that'll be over 500 water filters for Flint, then it's a great turnout. It's a wonderful turnout.
Contaminated toxins in the water, and then chemicals in the food twice, you know, and then the pollution in the air. It's all getting it from all sides.
And I mean, I would even say from my own experience, because I'm not perfect either, you know, there's a lot of cultural trends that we have in the cities. Many of us are smokers. We smoke cigars. We smoke cheap cigars. We smoke cigarettes. And, you know, what happens in the hood is that you can buy what's called loosies. So you don't need to constantly buy packs of anything. So because it's so easy to buy 1 or 2 or 3 cigarettes or cigars, many of us have started smoking at very young ages. So the smoking in conjunction with the chips, so you get Doritos and a cigar, and that's your nutrition for the next couple of hours. Like, but as long as that's what's so accessible in our communities, I know from personal experience what it does to my own body. That's what's going to kill us.
There were officials high up in the school system that knew of the high lead levels, extremely high levels since 2004, and they just sat on their hands and they didn't address the problem.
That's disgusting to hear that, because it makes it seem as like our health is not important. It makes it seem like, you know, nobody cares, you know, and water is essential to your everyday need.
Are you,
know,
pleased to see this big turnout?
I'm super pleased. I'm elated. I can't even explain in words how happy I am to see, man. Like, it's a beautiful thing. A lot of times, hip-hop doesn't have the positive spotlight shown on us. A lot of times, it's a negative imagery. They only highlight the negative. But we come together for the positivity, because we are on a frequency and a vibration that shows love and peace and unison, and we're all together for one common cause, and we're here to give back to hip-hop for Flint, for the water, man, for the children, for everybody that's involved. I found out about it.
Reporting from Hip Hop for Flint and for Newark, from Newark, New Jersey, Andrew Dedinsky, Files 1 News.